stop recording and then, okay. So I'm going to show very quickly the pages as well that provide more support. I think it was 6.2. So when you start, if you go back to the overview of the modules, you go into module 6, assignment week 7, page 6.2 and 6.3 are pages that I think you should all go and explore, because they do provide some useful resources. Peter, you might want to put as well your slides on this page as well. And this is where, where we can start as well, as Peter was saying, what is the purpose of this review? Now, for the purposes of TLO, and understanding that this is a standalone piece and not just directly connected to some research that you're going to undertake, understanding that we want you to explore those key debates, key ideas, issues that have been already explored previously and discussed in that literature that exists out there. So I was saying to you, for instance, that thematic, chronological, theoretical reviews are the most used. And yes, all of them have this element of criticality, because you need to show that you are showing awareness of, and comparing different elements, different issues that have been discussed in the past, different ideas, different models. And as Peter mentioned, that idea of social presence is understood in so many different ways. So that in itself, comparing how these ideas are understood in different contexts, for instance, in showing awareness of that, you are, showing as well that you're critical. So yes, understanding that this is the purpose of the TLO assignment, then you can start, going into, okay, what is the process? Ulka, you ask the question, how do you do this, with 3 people? Sometimes it's just very difficult to do it by myself. So I think, the key point is do have discussions, do meet as often as you can, just to make sure that you are all on the same page and that you all understand what the purpose is. Starting from there is very, very important. Some students in the past create what they call a literature review question that guides the search for what it is that I'm going to, aiming to explore out there. So basically, it's like writing your topic, but you write it as a question, and that question guides what kind of papers you're going to select and continue reading. Because there's a whole process. You need to select papers. Some students do ask me, okay, this is my topic. Is it good? Is it okay? And I'm thinking, okay, the first question I ask, what have you read about the topic? Tell me more about, the things that you have explored. Well, I haven't read anything, but is it doable? Well, a way to answer to your question is, have you started your exploration on the topic you are considering exploring? So I think after everybody is on the same page, then the next bit is, do you have a clear idea of what the focus of the exploration is? What are the key concepts, key ideas? And that's why some people do develop this question that then they can go and search on different databases and they start reading. So it is a process of, reading, informing yourself, and then finding, whether you need to narrow it down. Maybe it's too broad and there's a lot of things to cover, but, considering the word count, then you start making those decisions as a group. So yes, go through these resources. I found some, videos on the internet that do provide a bit of, tips of how you can do and manage this organized structure. There are also other 2 links that I found very useful from my previous teaching of, how to develop a topic to focus on and how to develop a synthesis. Now, you mentioned this word, Peter, synthesis of the literature rather than, what was the other word you mentioned? Synthesis versus
Description, I think, was
description versus, you know, is not a summary of what you've read as a list. Is exactly this. The word just synthesis shows that you're showing, you're comparing, you are evaluating information. That's the word synthesis, and what we want is to see a synthesis, as Peter mentioned, rather than just a summary of what you read, because that doesn't tell us anything about how you understand the topic. And the purpose is that then you show really good, not really good, I said before, excellent understanding of the topic. So taking it from there, the other thing to say is I have put, I updated in the assignment tab some example assignments for part 1. Now, the purpose of showing you these sample assignments, some of them are from last year, some of them are from 2022. So the examiners, I can't remember, I think it was Felix and Mark and myself, so you can see the feedback that students got. So there's an assignment with a distinction mark, high merit, and mid merit. You can see how other people have structured, but most importantly, look at the feedback and how that feedback can help you, make decisions around the things that you need to consider when you're writing your own reviews. So whenever, as a team, as a group, if you have time to look at that, it would be great. Yeah, I'll stop sharing. And I think that's for us for you to ask any questions about, things that you want to ask. Is it early days? Are you still in the process? My understanding is that everybody is in a group. But if there's anyone here who's still not in the group, you need to let us know as soon ASAP. But I take it from the number of people and groups as well that all groups have been formed. Ulkar, do you want to say something?
No, I'm just a little bit like, how to start, where to start, like, yeah, and how to finish.
You're worried about finishing.
Yeah, I mean, we actually had our like meeting yesterday. We tried to come up with a question, but we haven't delved into the topic yet. So, like, still on air, like where to focus. Maybe that's why we are actually looking for your feedback on that, because
Yes,
you already delved in that topic to the literature, so you know where to go. Is it too broad? Is it too narrow? Or like, because we have to like divide the work and try to make the balance between the word count as well between us. That's why, I mean, organization in the first step, I would say, will take some time.
yes.
I feel like, but yeah, we are welcome your feedbacks on that, like how to do it well.
No, and part of my feedback that I will definitely answer to your email. But part of that feedback is, how much have you read so far about the topic? Remember that when we're writing a literature review, it's not just about writing it, because the process is you're reading and writing. It's not like you're just like, okay, decide on a topic and then you write about it, because you need to go and find the literature. It is a spiral, I would say. So it's writing and reading and writing all together. And that would be my first comment. How much have you read about the topic, to then think about whether it's too broad or too narrow? So if I'm just going back to the page on Canvas I show you. So if you click on last one of from the two last links, if you click on the one that says developing a topic to focus on your literature exploration, you find these slides that were created as part of one unit I used to teach. And we often like to use this work from Buckler and William, if I'm pronouncing them correctly. So the idea was to think about your potential topic as a forest, and then think whether this forest, some students do start first with a big broad topic and then how to narrow it down. Well, the forest is very broad. We need to focus on the topic because the forest is the very broad topic of interest. We need to then think about a tree, only one tree. This metaphor can be useful sometimes, but it's better when we put it into practice. So from the topics that you all may have already kind of developed as a draft, you can then start questioning that topic. So let's look at the example that we have here, which is in relation to international students' experiences. That's a very big topic. International students' experiences is like very, very big topic. But if we focus on a tree, let's have a look at the example, international students' experiences, making friends. Okay, so it's not just the overall experience. We're now focusing on a partial point of that experience, which is making friends. Now let's go to the branch, which is, a branch is a specific aspect related to the tree. The idea is that we want to get to the leaf, which is your topic for exploration. So following this example of the international students' experiences, making friends, they add making friends through involvement in campus society. Okay, if I was thinking of online learning, because we do need to focus on online teaching and learning, making friends through online projects. There's a HARP project where students come and make friends, and they're all international students. I'm just thinking here on my feet. But the purpose is to get into that branch, from the branch to the leaf, sorry, because there's a specific, it's another area specific to that branch. So let's have a look at that example. International students experience making friends with British students through involvement with campus societies. So we're narrow it down to a more specific place, time, context. So when students, and this is something you could do as a group, to start, writing what is your overall topic at the moment. What would be the forest? Well, your overall topic. What would be the tree? What would be the branch? What would be the leaf? And if you think about this, you're kind of writing your working title, which then will guide you the exploration. So when you get to the leaf, you can start and putting the keywords into your databases to search for that relevant literature. And that's one way of starting. One of my responses will always be, what have you read so far in terms of the topic, and what other things within your reading you find useful and would love to focus on. There are other examples that you can look at, and one of the things that I remember always telling my students was, if you're finding too many resources on a topic, maybe your topic is too broad. If you're not finding any resources, it's because it's too narrow. So the idea of you looking at the forest, the tree, the branch, and the leaf is that it will help you navigate through the keywords to find that literature that will be part of your exploration. It's easier said than done, but it is a process of getting together with people. That's what we want you to have, is the second part of the session, a discussion with the people in your team, whoever is present today, to get you started. So if it's useful, that's one way of thinking about this metaphor to think about how to choose and focus your exploration. But as I said before, other people, once they get to the leaf, then they transform this as a question. And that's fine, because as long as you have a purpose, you know what you're actually looking for when you get into selecting articles or chapters or any other sources that are academic. Any other comments about this, Peter? I don't know if you want to say anything on this. What's your approach?
I think I entirely agree, Nayeli, that reading is a very good place to start, because you need to get a sense of what's being researched in that area. But I wouldn't just read and then move on to the next article, because ideally, when you read, you also mark up the article in some way, or make notes on it, because then when you come to actually writing the literature review, you've then got parts of the literature to include in the literature review. So we'll save work later on. So read with a view to being able to draw on that reading for your actual writing. Because if you read something and you highlight part of the article, or you make a note on it, or you make a note in a separate file, with a quotation along from it as well, because that enables you to draw on the article quite deliberately, rather than just to talk about the article in general. You really do want to have a bit of detail from some articles coming out and illustrating what you're saying by reference to particular parts of each article. And then you can comment on it and say why this is missing something, or what it does well, or why another perspective on this would help. So you want to add interest to particular parts of the literature review when you put it together in due course.
Definitely.
So it is all useful for the final actual written text.
Yeah. I made that mistake in my PhD, where I read so many papers. I don't know how many times I read the same paper thinking, did I make notes of this? And it was that part of not being organized, which I had to learn. So yes, very important to keep your annotations on a document, which you can do all together in a Google, doc, and making sure that you have those, notes and elements that you've read, and then you have probably a link. Always add a link to remember where you found this information, or start from there. Sometimes, for instance, in Google Scholar, you can get the citation and the reference quite right there and then. So yeah, being organized in that sense when you are reading as well is very, very important.
I have a question on that,
Yes.
if you don't mind. About synthesizing in TR, we were recommended that we can use kind of Excel, synthesize our literature. But honestly, in my practice, I didn't find it practical. So working with Excel, is there like another tool, software, or another kind of organization way that we can annotate and like synthesize, try like all of three together? Like Excel, I think it will be better to find out the sources and to see that we are not reading the same papers but different papers. But in terms of synthesizing, yeah, do you have any recommendation from your practice? How did you do it?
I am more traditional, and in the sense that although I use online tools like Google Docs or just a normal, Word, and I create like a table of, I put the reference and what what the discussion or key argument was of that paper. I make sure that I have the link to that paper or chapter, and then on another different column I have my understandings of that paper, because I think that's very, very important to include. It's just not, as Peter said, not what people said only, but involving your understandings is important. Other people might use EndNote. They use
I've just put the reference in there, because something like EndNote or RefWorks or Zotero. I use Zotero. Another one is called Mendeley, which was designed for sharing references across a group. So you could use the same tool together. So I think Zotero probably has, and EndNote and RefWorks have sharing facilities as well.
Yes.
But I know Mendeley was built around that. And you share it as a team, your literature. So you build up a group of literature together. Because then you might refer to someone else's literature when in your part of your theme. You might make a connection to someone else's references that relate more to their part of the literature review. And you can make notes. You can certainly make notes in these spaces. Mendeley, I'm sure, lets you make notes alongside it. And that would also help you actually organize your references when you produce them at the end, because you don't have to do them one by one. The software does it for you in the right style. You might need a plug-in for Word or for whichever software you use for editing, but they have all these pieces of software have plugins to use in the word processors. Yes,
and just on that comment on the synthesis, there's another link, which again, if you go all the way down, it's the second link, the synthesis information, identifying search terms for your literature exploration. There's another set of slides, where it basically tells you, what the purpose of the review is, to have a synthesis and the different approaches which you can undertake in order to make that synthesis a synthesis and not a summary of ideas mainly. So yeah, have a look at that in your independent time. Think is the information here is very, very easy to digest. As I said, there are a couple of videos which I found that were useful. There's a link to my learning essentials as well that I've seen, Peter, you added it as well. And yeah, from there, I think the next bit for me is to tell you, the expectation of word count, and this is part of the conversation as well that I had with Peter yesterday, because the groups are a bit varied this time, and that's because given the numbers of the total people in the course, so those groups who have 4 people aim to do the collaborative assignment of about 5,000 words. So taking that into account, then and considering that per person you might end up writing about 1,250 words, then the rest of the groups should consider, then if you're 3 people, then the word count is going to be a bit less, but you still will be expected to write per person about 1,250 words. The same for if you're only 2 people, a pair. So the assignment is going to be smaller, but you're still aiming to write 1,250 words per person. So there's a suggestion there of how you can organize the word count, which you can look at, is already added in the assignment section of Canvas. And yeah, just in case I did not say this before, the submission is through Blackboard. So usual as any other, course unit, the submission should be through via Blackboard. So if we go to Blackboard, let's see. When you go to Blackboard, just go into assessment, the assessment tab, and you should be able to see the link there. But you worry about that coming back from the Easter break, but just so you know, the submission is through Blackboard. I'll stop sharing now because I can see there's some conversation going on. Okay, yes, that's the link you shared. Any other questions before we send you into your breakout rooms? Right, I have one more thing to say as well. So today we're going to be working with the assignment ideas, which is a document you can download directly from Canvas, page 6.2, as I mentioned before. So when you download that, you will have this document. You open this document where we're asking you to complete a page. Just make it 1 page, because again, it's an initial idea of your topic, and we will provide you with some written feedback. If you think that you want to meet us or have this conversation either face to face or via email, contact the tutor you have been assigned. So if you want to know who the tutor is for your group, I have divided it in this way based on our, our focus, because I'm focusing more on those distance learners. But there you go, there's a link there. So basically, I'm the tutor for group A, B, and C. Peter would be the tutor for group D and E. And that's like the 4 and 2, Peter. So the two good extremes for the students. So contact us directly, knowing who your tutor is. And if you want that feedback for that document, which I just showed you, it'll be great if you can send us something so that we can give you that feedback. I lost that now, my thingy. Where is it? That one there. So complete that is group members, proposed topic, assignment title. What kind of things would you say in the introduction, main body, and conclusion? But also, what kind of references and things that you've been reading so far. So if you fill in that form for about 2050 words, it's just make it one page, simple, initial idea, discuss it with your tutors by Friday before you go on Easter. That'll be great, because then you will have an action plan whenever you are working together as a group. And I won't go anywhere, so the next week I'll be still around university. So those who are in my groups, you can contact me next week as well. I'll tell you my availability. Right. Is there anything else?
I'll just point a couple of things out, Naomi.
Yeah.
I put in the chat a couple of other websites you might be interested in looking at for search tools, which both make use of generative artificial intelligence to help you find relevant papers. So Semantic Scholar and Elicit are both quite worthwhile tools to help you just see whether there are other key papers that might help to include in the study. But they won't help you narrow the focus of your study down to a manageable target in and of themselves. That's the kind of work you have to do. You have to try and create that suitable focus, because there is so much research out there.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, I'll stop recording and I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms so that then we have some time to visit you and have a small discussion with you and your group members. I'm just going to stop recording now.